everyone.
Yesterday. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Welcome to day 5. 5, y'all. 5 days straight of these movies. So I have to apologize for us not being online last night. I had a amazingly bad asthma attack that really just derailed me the whole evening. So we just kind of went and did our thing. So we're going to talk about that later. But we got up this morning and decided let's at least finish the narrative shorts for review purposes because we do love them. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 7 more shorts we had left. And I don't know about you, but when I was sitting there watching, I was like, they really filled like 2.5 days just with short films. Like, this wasn't even including the documentary or the Texas ones.
Yeah, I'm like, how I'm gonna do my best to finish, but like, I watched every short program last year: the high school, the Texas, the documentary, all the narratives, the animation, and I had plenty of time to hit other film screenings. And I'm like, oh my God, it's late Saturday afternoon. Am I going to finish the short program?
Yeah, because, the way they usually do it is like the Midnighters are all put together in one, and it's like an hour and 45 minutes tops. Same with the animation ones. The narrative sometimes can be 2 different programs, but usually all the films are so short that you can put them all in together. So we've always seen them all, and it would take like, I guess, the equivalent of half a day. So this was really kind of bizarre. I don't think any of the ones we watched today were under 20 minutes. I really don't think that. I think maybe one was probably short, but they were all like 18, 15, 20 minute long. So
and they
again,
were wonderful.
They were all wonderful. So we're going to just start with this, and then when we get done, don't go anywhere because we're going to go ahead and do another one recapping some things we watched and then just recapping our whole event. That's going to be it for us this year. So let's get started with Play It Safe. This takes place in a acting school, and there's only one black guy in the entire school. And it was very, very current, I guess is the best way to put it, because everyone wants to have him be their friend, and then they write him a specific ghetto part for a play. It was really interesting the way that they were playing things, and their acting tasks for practice is to pull an animal out of a hat and act like it. So when it's his turn, what does he pull out? He pulls out an ape. I was like, I knew, because when I saw the white girl pull out a squirrel, I was like, he's going to get a monkey. And sure enough, he pulled out the monkey, and he was really wrestling with himself with it. But one of the things that this film did really, really well is it makes you face racism. Because when he decides he's going to go ahead and do the ape, you don't watch him be the ape. You hear it in the sounds around you, but every single shot is of one of the white people's faces and reactions. They have this like mortified look, like they don't know if they're supposed to be impressed or afraid or just appalled that like every single one of the students got their shot. And they were just there for like you would see him moving around them and you would hear him, and it was really sound wise amazing. But the fact that it watched all these white people's reactions to this, I thought was hands down brilliant. What did you think?
I loved it. It was heartbreaking. It's set up from the beginning. He's the only black guy. And let's talk about the aesthetics of the casting. And this, by the way, this was a UK film. It wasn't American. Took place at a school in London, I think.
Yeah.
There's also a mixture of people in London as well, but every single person in this class wasn't just white. They were like quintessential white. Like I'm Italian.
Like privileged white.
Right. Like I've got like brown, like I'm proud of my Italian heritage. I have dark brown eyes.
Same here.
I've got like kind of like a big Italian nose. So I'm like anything that doesn't make me look 100% white. But what is white? White doesn't even really exist as a white, a conglomeration of a bunch of different races anyway. But I'm saying like these kids, like pasty ass white skin, like ours, big blue eyes, light colored hair, and the actor who played the African American student was dark, beautiful, dark, black. So that right there was such a great contrast, because let's just drive this point home. These are whiter than white kids who did not understand until the end how much they were hurting him. Clearly, everyone was friends. I didn't feel like they were necessarily like trying to be his friend because he was Black. I felt like they were doing their best to be inclusive. And I felt also like it was a statement on, like, let's look at the Black Lives Matter movement recently, because Black Lives Matter has been around for a long time, but obviously it got way more visibility during George Floyd. People think that that's when the movement started. It didn't just fucking start. It started a long time ago. It just got more visibility because of what happened. Protests. Yeah. But white people are very guilty of trying to show their support to Black people by doing what these white kids were doing. And I'm not damning them. They were super young, and this was just a story, right? But like, they're so excited. They're so excited to present the script to their Black friend that has a part written in it for a Black person. Like, we hear the kid talk. He's a well-spoken student like all of the other students. He doesn't speak the way that, because we got to see, as the audience watching this film, we got to see part of the script, and it's all what white people would write for a Black person, stereotypical. In fact, the script was called Ghetto something. It was 2 words.
It was like ghetto.
Ghetto life, ghetto. But the word ghetto, which is kind of an offensive word now, and that was in the title. And you watch his face fall, because at first he's, they're like, we've got this play that we wrote a part just for you. And this kid's in clearly this very, very specific. And I know this fucking kind of acting school, man. They're all in Black. It's a sound and movement and voice class. I've been in these classes. You're crawling around, you're getting dirty. It's clearly some kind of a conservatory, acting trade school kind of a thing. And so it looked very prestigious. The teacher's also stark white, and he's so excited. And then he takes a look at the play, and it's like ghetto, what would be considered ghetto speak that these white kids have written for their Black friend that they love, but they don't get it. And so we watch him kind of fall. And then he clearly has a crush on one of the girls in the class. And she looks like she likes him too, actually. Yeah. But then when he pulls that card out, I was like, this is going to go one of 2 ways. Because the teacher tries to stop. The teacher's like, I think perhaps the hat. Like, she's starting to like try to blame it on the hat. And he's like, nah, I got it. Right? I loved that this young man was able to express how he'd been feeling his whole life. And he was like, all right, y'all want me to be the ape? I'm going to be the ape. And he, not only was he effective just acting as that animal, because that was the job. They're all, somebody was a squirrel, someone else was a fox or whatever. But the whole complaint that the teacher kept giving, the critiques that she kept giving as each student got up was, you're not using the whole space. You're not using the whole space. I need more from you. You can go bigger. And that kid took on that persona of what he drew from the hat, which was the animal of an ape. And he used that whole fucking space. Fuck you. He became that animal. And it was so uncomfortable, and it was so brilliant. Like you said before, it wasn't a wide shot of watching this kid act like the ape. The sound, oh God, the sound design, the sounds he made, the beating, and then he got up in people's faces, and he wasn't rude or disrespectful. He was an ape. He was an ape. That's all he wasn't an aggressive ape. He was an ape. He got up, like the girl that he liked, he like got up into her face, not in an aggressive way, but he like played with her hair as as we've seen apes do. If you've ever been or watched on fucking PBS or whatever, he became exactly how he has been treated. And it was the most brilliant. For me, it was the most artistic display of racism, because it was you don't always need fucking guns and fucking protests. Nothing against them. I'm not, I have a shit ton of problem against guns, but I'm just saying, like, a protest. Oh yeah, let me just whatever I was going, whatever the protest is, right? Whatever the thing showing the point of racism. It's not always a protest. It's not always a riot. It's not always guns. It's not always white against black. Sometimes it's what that kid was fucking going through in a prestigious acting class where he had just as much a right to be there as anyone else, and nobody treated him like he wasn't allowed to be there. It's just they were treating him like the black kid. And he's like, I know I'm better than that. Oh, I drew the ape card. All right, I'll do this. And it was just as every bit as uncomfortable as watching another display of racism maybe in another film I've seen, which I can't think of right now. I thought it absolutely, oh my God, it blew me the fuck away.
I remember the one line that they focused on the script literally said, "What you talking about? Where's my pee?"
Where's my what?
Pee. It was pee with like an accent on it. Like, I guess peace. I was just like, they seriously wrote this? And they're all like, ha ha ha, look, we wrote part. Like,
yeah, like we wrote this for you.
That part killed me.
Yeah, it killed me. And it's the whole thing of white people. Like, okay, I know like we have way more films to talk about, but I got to stay on this for just a little bit longer. Do you remember when the protests for George Floyd had just started?
Yeah.
And I was on Twitter a lot, and they released a bunch of, it was a short PSA, if you will, and it was white celebrities. The only one I can remember right now is Kristen Bell. I'm actually a fan of Kristen Bell. I think she's great. So I'm not coming down on her, but it was like just, high profile white celebrities, and it was black and white, and they were all looking at the camera, and they were giving their experience as a white person on how they've been unintentionally or intentionally racist or just obtuse, right? And so there's things of like white people like looking at the camera going, yeah, I noticed at the store that I was at that the white clerk came right over to me to ask me if I needed help, and the black lady standing next to me was ignored, even though she'd been trying to get attention for the last 10 minutes. So they were telling and that's not a story, but I mean, like they were telling these very, and it was meant. And I appreciate white people, I appreciate you really trying to be like, oh, I've been a bad white person, but it really wasn't appropriate, because at that time, white people needed to step back, because we've been at the forefront for literally forever. Step back and let the black voices be heard. And it was still white people getting in there and going, oh, well, I have something to say too. I've been racist. And it's like, and the hashtag, and it was mortifying. It was like, oh, look, the white celebrities are at it again. And I know that everyone felt like they had to do something. I actually had started writing something just about my feelings on fucking racism and how it's a fucking disease. I fucking hate racism so much. And I stopped. I was like, nope, it's not my place. It's not my time. I'm white. I can show my support, and I can show my love, and I can be every bit as I ever have been for the fight against racism. I don't need to talk about it right now. I don't need to talk about it. I need to listen. I need to retweet. I need to reshare. And I need to show my support and be an ally. And so for me, for this film, it was these kids, like, they clearly liked the guy. There was this is what it was. It was underlying, obtuse, misunderstood racism, which is and not just as bad, because racism with killing fucking racist cops killing racist white cops killing black people is worse. But I'm just saying that it's still a form of racism, and it still needs to be addressed, because these kids were so bright-eyed and so happy to include their black friend. And it was so cringe. And it reminded me of that video that I just mentioned during the George Floyd protests. And it's just white people that they just don't get it. And I mean, I could talk about this for another hour, and I'm going to stop now. But obviously this film really, the sound design, and you said it first, with the sounds of him moving around, it was raw.
Because you didn't follow him. It was like my favorite experience ever at Disney World before they canceled it was Extraterrestrial Encounter, where you were in pitch black in a 4D thing and you could feel it moving around behind you and you could hear it. That's what this was like, because it was focusing on the people in the audience. So, yes, very well done. Very well done. Next up was Bruiser. And this was a movie about a day of a son and a father. And they're having a little bit of a hard time connecting, and they end up in a bowling alley, and all his kids' friends are having a party. He's like, why aren't you over there? And the kid's like, well, their dad doesn't want me over there. So the dads have a confrontation, and you start to realize that this dad has done something in his life that he's being judged for, and it's the sins of the father follow the kid, and the kid starts, trying to want to fight back because he's just letting all these people talk trash about his family. And this one to me was super powerful, because I am a felon and I know how the system works and how second chances are implied but never given, and how people judge you for not even knowing a situation. Like, this did a really good job of expressing that in about 20 minutes, because it was like, wow, how rumors can spread and no one knows the information, but they think they do, and they start judging the kids and the rest of the family off of something somebody supposedly does. And it was just like, wow. Just wow. And then I was terrified that kid was going to die, because he decides to go start lifting weights on his own and fails and starts to choke himself. I was like, this he can't die. He cannot fucking die. And of course his dad comes to the rescue. And that's how it ends. And that was just a great way to end, showing that they're in this together. Man, just wow.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I thought I had a little bit of a different perception of what I thought the film was about. So it's really interesting what you're saying. To me, it seemed like the dad had a history of violence, and word definitely had gotten around that this kid's dad, he starts a lot of fights. Like, it just seemed to me, because just even the way the mom comes in at the end, like, what the fuck happened? Like, it was no surprise to me when he walked over and started a fight with the dad of the kid, who wouldn't let the child over to play. So to me, I feel like the film had set up like there's a problematic dad who loves his fucking son, but he's got some anger going on, and people know about it, and they don't want because the dad's no longer welcome, then they're not going to allow that kid over there either. So that was my take. I thought it was great that they had a big fight scene, like literally, not just at the bowling alley, but like in the literal alley of where you throw the bowling ball. Like, I thought that was some great choreography. Did you know though? I thought when that wide shot is happening at the end, I thought that was the dad lifting weights. I didn't know it was the kid until the dad came in and saved him.
Yeah, no, because remember, he was at the party and the kids were making fun of him for the video. We heard your dad knock someone out. We heard your dad was in jail. All these rumors that these parents have been saying about this kid's dad, and then they made fun of him for crying about it. So he went home to try to get tough.
Yeah.
So I knew that was going to be him on that freaking bench, because there was not nearly the amount of weights the dad was lifting. That was the dead giveaway to me.
Do you think that they tried to make it look like it was the dad? Because I thought it was the dad. I thought it was brilliant. I was like, oh my God, the dad. Because remember in the beginning, the dad had trouble lifting the weights. But he doesn't want to admit that he needs a spot. And I was like, oh my God, dad's lifting weights. I just thought it was like another day. It was another passage of time.
It was
like,
meant to look like that, so you could see the father and son dynamic being this. So yes, I enjoyed this one a lot.
God, it was hard, and I love that the last scene, that child just reaches out and grabs hold of his father, and his father returns that hug, and it's like, man, that was such a powerful ending.
See, there were little things that they showed you throughout the whole thing that let you know that, he's had a rough past, but it's not entirely his fault. Like the way he was dressed, the way he handled himself, the way he was telling the other dad, look, don't punish my son for what you think of me. Then when they get home and his wife is bathing him in the bathtub very gently, like there's an underlying thing there that lets you know he's not a bad guy. But he was probably in the wrong place. Like whatever happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I didn't judge the dad. I recognized that he was being judged by others. And also, look, I'm not a parent. You are. If you, I can imagine though, if a child has a problematic parent and they've started some shit, I might be a little bit nervous. I've got a birthday party of 12, 10-year-olds. So I can't judge. I can't judge that guy either. And he actually really tried at first to be civil. He shook us. He's like, hey, it's really good to see you. And he's like, yeah, my son says you don't want him over here. Is that because of me? And he's like, look, I'm just going to be like, the guy wasn't a dick. He was like, because they shook hands for a while. The guy wasn't like, get the fuck off me. He was like,
that was a key scene. Because did you know how the other dad did not let go of this one dad's hand? Because I don't want to do this here. I don't want. He was trying to assert that dominance, like you need to get the hell out of here, because I'm not afraid of you. It was the way he because the dad comes over to talk to the party dad, and the party dad puts his hand on his shoulder and grabs his hand, and it's like holding him in place, like, look here, fucker, get the hell out of here.
Way. That's so funny. I saw it as them continuing to shake hands, because they weren't enemies or anything. That's so funny that we got something different out of that.
It was the way he was trying to say, I'm not going to put up with you. But then he got knocked the fuck out. So he had that coming. I'm sorry. I just was going to say that. All right, next up.
It was good.
This one saddened me.
Which one is this?
Wiggle Room. So we're following a woman in a wheelchair.
Did you know she was in a wheelchair at first?
Not until she got to the insurance agency.
It was brilliantly filmed.
She is trying to get money for a claim that they made based on she has everything from a year ago, so that she doesn't lose the ramp to her house. If there was, how we talked about how Play It Safe was very much a great representation of racism. This movie is a great representation of the system and how it mistreats and mishandles and does not care about people it's supposed to.
People specifically with disabilities.
With disabilities and issues. And just, so she goes in there, and I swear it was Justin Long behind the desk. Like, that's the first thing I thought.
Just what?
I thought it was Justin Long was her insurance agent.
Oh, I don't know.
Because he looked like Justin Long. Anyways, he's petting his rabbit, puts it in the cage, and she brings out all her paperwork. She's like, look, we put this claim in a year ago. We haven't got reimbursed. We have a week to pay before they take my ramp away to my house.
Like, how is she going to fucking get in her house? She's in a fucking wheelchair.
And from the moment she walked into this place, nobody cared. Nobody cared about the guy that was in front of her. There's these people just waiting around because this is all they have to. They have no choice. They need this help. And of course, the insurance agency is like, oh, well, you didn't file this right form. It'll be 6 to 8 weeks. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, okay, bye.
Like trying to charge her more money. He's like, oh, you need a third party. That'll be $40. And she's like, we can't afford the bill now. What do you mean? Like,
yeah. And so I was expecting a Spider-Man moment because a guy comes in to beat up the insurance agent while she's in there. And I was expecting her to just sit there and go, not my responsibility.
Same.
But instead, she took the time to steal the dude's rabbit so he would feel what it like to lose something he needed in life.
Well, hold on. She clocked. So this guy, this angry guy who's pissed off. I mean, God knows why, right? Like it's the ninth circle of hell at that agency. But he's very violent. He's in the very beginning of the movie or the film, and then he comes back at the end and he is choking out this dude. And we have just seen this insurance guy not give a shit about this. Also, it's not a lady; it's a girl. This is a teenager.
Yeah,
she looks like she's maybe 16 years old, 15, 16 years old, trying to just get her ramp paid for. She's not trying to take a loan out for a fucking car. This is what kills me. They probably need like $200 or, I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying like, it's so awful. And she's like, we've had this claim for over a year. So anyway, so the angry guy from the beginning of the film comes back and he is going to murder. And I kind of want him to, because the guy is such a fucking asshole. And yeah, you look at her and she's just watching. And then she takes like this magic 8 ball is what it looked like, or just gigantic paperweight, fucking clocks this dude, knocks him out. And the guy who was being choked is like, okay now. And I wanted him so badly to be like, you know what, miss? I'm going to push this through and you're going to get your ramp taken care of. I wanted that Hollywood ending. But instead,
she steals his rabbit so he knows what it's like to need to
is
try
that
to
okay?
get...
So is that why you think she did it?
Yeah, because I think that Rose is emotional support animal. That's the only reason why he would have had it in the office. And she probably understands that. So she's like, I'm going to take something from you since you're taking something from me so you'll know what it's like.
Wow.
So,
and you know,
yeah.
I didn't, it's so funny. You and I get such different, I didn't see it as revengeful. In fact, I didn't really understand what you're saying makes sense. I didn't understand why she took the rabbit. If only I'm like, she took the rabbit because she could. She can't take anything out. You know what I thought? I thought at first she'd taken his wallet because he runs out, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, she stole his wallet. And I'm like, well, that wasn't very smart because if she tries to use any of his credit cards or whatever, like he's going to find her and like have her arrested. I'm like, why would she take his wallet? And then she opens her jacket on the bus and it's the bunny. And I was like, well, why did she take the bunny? And I was like, well, it was the only thing that she could do. Like she just saved this guy's life. She still doesn't have any help, but she can at least take the bunny. And I didn't think of it that it was his emotional support animal. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think she picked that up when she went in the room and he had it. He was holding it and petting it and then putting it back in the cage. I think she picked it up at that point in time. She knew that was something important to him, something that he needed for day-to-day living, and she needs this ramp day-to-day living.
Did the film make you sad because of the hopelessness of her situation, or why did it make you sad specifically?
Because this system is real. People have to deal with this every single day. The VA is the same way. I've had friends that the VA have completely failed. My mom, when she was alive and had to deal with Medicaid, she'd have to take days off just to try to go down there and figure this stuff out. And there's so much paperwork and red tape for these programs that are made to help these people. There's so much red tape so that they can't get that help. And it's just this never-ending revolving door of bureaucracy and paperwork. And they just tie this stuff up so that when you actually get through to it, it's like a miracle or it's too late. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that work there started off with the best of intentions, but then has it beaten out of them by the system to the point where they just, like we watched the other one, they need the job. So
it was tough, and it was all filmed in those blue hues, which always kind of made me feel sad.
Yeah,
it's just effective way to light and color a film.
So then we go to this next one, which I don't really know how I feel about it at the end. It's
Which was it?
CHUJ Boys of Summer. And this is about boys who escape this town in Mexico and end up in Colorado. It's like a regular thing for them.
Hold on. It's about the Mayan race who, I mean, these are Mayan descendants.
I've probably missed that part because
it was
getting a drink.
Yeah. Okay, well, the very beginning it was written, and so it said that the Mayan peoples, which I think this is what the writing said, it is now modern day Guatemala, and a lot of them have now settled in what is now Colorado. So this film took place, I thought, in Colorado, and I thought it was. Okay, yeah. So then it's really one of those like fucking I'm out of place here because this kid comes to stay with family to work. And so he had come from Guatemala. And that's what they were like making a big deal because like he looks Hispanic, whatever. And they're like, you don't speak Spanish. Well, he's Guatemalan. He doesn't speak Spanish. They don't speak Spanish in Guatemala. So he didn't speak English. He didn't speak Spanish. And yet, but he's come to be with some family to try and work. And I actually thought it ended up being a really happy film, even though it had such sort of sad ambiance to it.
Yeah.
But the sweeping landscapes, the cinematography, the still shots of like the land of how beautiful, Colorado is beautiful too, but also Guatemala. I was like, oh no, this is actually a very happy film. And I can talk about more of that in a minute, but go ahead.
No, I like the fact that, they're like, you need to go back to, like his friend was like, you need to go back to school. I thought it was sad that the older one decided he wanted to go back down to Guatemala. And he's like, you'll never be able to come back here. He's like, I know, but that's home. It was very, to me, just kind of it's like a story that maybe should have been a documentary instead, like follow some actual kids that do this, why they do this, what life is like for them. Like I think just as a narrative story, it just wasn't working for me because, like I said, I missed the opening beginning because I was getting some drink. So that's probably a big problem why I was disconnected from it. But this felt like something that needed to, because it said it was based on like a real stories. Well, let's see some of these real stories so we can see what their life is like. Because I like the fact that the school helped them. They said, no, you're going to be 16, so they don't kick you out. And so overall, that's what I thought.
Yeah, maybe if you would have known the perspective of what the story was about, because otherwise it probably would have confused me too. But I thought it was, the reason why I thought it ended up being a happy story was like, this kid left Guatemala to come to Colorado to work and ended up realizing that he wanted more out of his life. Because his cousin's like, I thought the kid's like, I want to go back to school. And he's like, what, like take some night classes? He's like, no, I want to go to high school. He's never fucking been he's never been to school. And the cousin's like, I thought you came here to make money. And he's like, I did. And what he didn't say was, but I want more now. And, the thing I love also about that actor, they could have, this is what I loved. They could have made this short film about sort of like this typical kid who does exactly what happened, right? Like just leaves kind of a bad, or we don't know that it's bad in Guatemala, but we know that this kid leaves to come and make some money and be with some family and see what's what, right? Do you notice that the actor playing that role always smiled, even when they were making fun of him in the beginning? Because I was like, oh, here we go with the alpha male. Like, cause like he goes to play basketball and they're like, who are you? And he's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I forget his name. And he's like, oh, you're so-and-so's cousin. Oh man, he was awful in basketball too. I bet you're no better. And there's no like puffing up of the chest. The kid just kind of laughs and smiles. And he's not that great in basketball, although he's got that great block at the end. But like he smiled the whole time, and even when he's being interviewed by the counselor and the translator about getting back into high school, like that could have been super uncomfortable, like because they're like you don't speak Spanish, so that guy apparently spoke I don't know what they speak in Guatemala. I don't know if it's Guatemalan. I don't know what the language is, but the guy obviously can talk with him a little bit, and that could have been awkward and awful. And the kid's just smiling, and they're like, you're 17 and no, you're 16 now, and he's like, okay, 16. Like it kept bringing the story back to me as a very positive change of life for this young man. And I think it should be a feature-length film. I mean, it was a lot for this 20-minute. Yeah.
Yeah, so we agree on it should be expanded. Now, I want to know your thoughts before I get into mine on this next one. Are you still there?
Which one was that?
This is a movie about a girl whose car dies in a timed parking spot in a parking lot. She has to spend the day trying to figure out what to do with it. What were your thoughts on this one?
You know what I started thinking about when I watched this one? I was reminded of why I like short films. Short films should be a piece of a day or a part of an experience, which is why, like the film we were just talking about, like I don't think it didn't work as a short film, but I really would like a feature-length film about this kid's journey. But anyway, it was a really fucking bad day. And that girl did the best she could. I mean, I feel like I have an understanding of what happened. Do you want me to talk about how emotionally it made me feel, or what I think the story was about?
I know what the story was about because it made me cry.
No, I know you do, but what do you want to hear from me on it?
No, just your overall thoughts on it, because I'll tell you what mine are.
I loved it. I loved it. I really felt like it was, this kid, this young girl, 15, 16, has pulled into a parking space at a convenience store, or like a little deli convenience store. And she goes to start her car, and the car won't start. And it's hot. And so she calls her mom. Her mom is some kind of a medical worker, a nurse or something at a hospital. And actually, her mom might be a doctor, to be honest with you. We don't know what her mom's medical profession is. But the mom's like, oh my God, I'm with a patient. I can't help you, but call AAA. The account is in your dad's name, and they'll come tell you. She's like, okay. So she calls AAA, and AAA is like, give me the name. She gives the name. And they're like, yeah, we see the name here, but she's like, that's my father. And the person on the other line is like, well, your father hasn't added you to his account, so we can't really help you. And she just ends up hanging up. So clearly the father has died, and it's not like she can hang up with AAA and call her dad and go, add me to your account. I'm stuck. Right. And so then she starts the long wait of her mother can't really do anything. Her mother's at work. It's 100 degrees outside. The woman from the convenience store keeps coming out and screaming at her to move her car because the girl's in a temporary parking spot. It's like one of those 15-minute parking spaces when you pull in at a deli or a spot for takeout only. And she's there for hours, and it's 1,000 degrees. And like, I feel like she's thinking about her dad. I feel like, there's just not a whole lot she can do. And then finally at the end, her mom is able to come and help her. And then her mom and her clearly have a strong bond. And then the girl finds her dad's hat in her mom's car and puts it on. And I feel like as a short film, it really gave us a lot in terms of like an experience that happened one day into the night for this one girl, which was like a range of emotions. My favorite part was when the Asian woman from the store came out when she realized that the girl wasn't just a dick and like not moving her car because she didn't want to move her car, but like she was stuck. The woman hands her a cold drink and she's like, it's really hot today here. And I was like, humanity. So I really liked it. Go.
I was very emotional during this one because this story was about surviving a day without the one person you need there the most to fix what's wrong that day. Obviously, this husband is dead, probably very violently, because there's an underlying theme of don't get out of your car. Don't, like when those Mexican guys offered to help her, she wasn't having it. She's fearful. The mom and the daughter don't know how to jump a car. They don't know it because their dad did all of this. Their dad would call. So it was like there's these days that come where you just really need the parental figure and they're not there. And that was a heavy, heavy reminder that, you know, life has to go on, but there's still some times when you're just triggered and remember, this is what my dad would do. This is what my mom would do. This is what my aunt would do. So this was highly emotional to me when I watched it. Maybe when I cried, like it was just because we all have those days. There are days where I really miss my aunt. And this just really hit that home.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one was a tearjerker for me. Whereas this next one, I could have done without. Paisier or Paisier, I don't know how we said it. It's a French movie about.
Paisier, it's pleasure.
It's this movie about an American girl decides to go live in a French commune, I guess to figure out her life or something. Doesn't really speak French and has to just learn with all these. I'm just going to say it. Like, I love and hate artist communes. Some of them can be so weird. This one, I think, was bordering on that weird side. But there's also really, really amazing ones like Meow Wolf. So she's just living this life, trying to figure things out, trying to learn her French, and she doesn't quite fit in, and she ends up falling in love with the older lady. And I was hoping she would not make a move, and she made a move, and it epically failed. And then they went on this naked retreat at the end. So this one, I was like, I could have done without.
Slice of life, man. Again, this is why I love short films. This is about a girl who my take on it was that she just gotten through a breakup. And so sometimes in our younger years, I don't know about you, but it's like I go through a breakup and it's like, let me do something drastic. You know, cut off all my hair, bleach it. You know, just go run a marathon. Not that you could really just like decide to run a marathon. That takes fucking a long time to train for. But I did go on a 60-mile walk in 3 days. Nearly died.
It's been one hell of a breakup.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always breaking up with something, whether it was a person or a job or I don't know, just life. I feel like, you know, she's just one of those artistic types, and like the film does a really good job. You feel really bad for this girl, but you pity her. Like, it's just kind of pathetic. Like, everyone's making fun of her overalls. She doesn't speak French at all, really. She speaks a few words. None of them speak English. So she's, you know, just doing her best. She's trying to fit in. She's pulling her weight, you know, she's not slacking. But yeah, like this girl's trying to find her place in the world. And she's just here for this experience. And I love the end, you know, where they're like, you know, come into the jardin, come into the garden, and you can remove all your clothes if you want. And she does. And then she dances, and her dancing is so awkward and it's so great. And I'm just like, you know what? This girl's doing it. She's processing, she's moving through it. Like, it was a very, very, I thought, good display of trying to work through something in those 20-something years, when you're just trying to get to the other side of whatever it is you're dealing with. So I thought I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quirky as hell. I love that it was in France. I recognize that French actress. I don't know from where, but and she had that real Greta. What is the name of the Greta actress, writer, director? Greta.
I don't know.
Little Women.
I'm a guy. I didn't watch Little Women.
Nah. She had those. She reminded me of that actor. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought the camera work was done really well. I liked just the kind of playful aspects of it, like when they're making fun of her lack of results in her manual labor, because obviously she's not used to this kind of stuff. I just overall was like, I'm glad it was short. This would, I don't know, maybe it could have worked longer, but it bored me to tears. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right, then our last one. And this one just hit another major point home. It's called The Mohel. I guess that's the name of this rabbi guy in this short. So this Jewish couple have a baby, and on top of the cost of having a baby, they need to get him circumcised. And this guy's really wants this certain rabbi to come do it. And he's like, oh, you're lucky another couple had a baby, so y'all can like split my charges and pay half of this and that. And so he's all excited for it. And the other, you can tell his wife isn't exactly naturally Jewish, because she's like, why don't we just get a doctor to do this? I'd feel a lot safer. He's like, no, he's a doctor. And he was like, no, he's a rabbi. So the guy comes out and does it. They have the whole thing. And then as he's leaving, he tells the husband, you're not Jewish. She's not Jewish. This isn't a Jewish house. I only came to do this because I wanted it to be done right, but your son's not Jewish. I'm not giving him what he needs. Send me money, bye. This
horrible.
This film, without, I don't know if they realized it, demonstrated everything wrong with religion. Every single thing wrong with religion is on display here, from the elitism to the having to be within certain guidelines, the whole bloodline aspect, like the money aspect. Like, this should have been something this guy came out and did, because it's religion. And so I was totally expecting the dad to just throw it away at the end, because he looked brilliant when this was happening. Like, this guy was just slapping in the face with his whatever, be like, this is not Jewish. You're breaking your mom's heart. You need to go to a synagogue. This whole town isn't Jewish. Like, he just railed against it. It just came out for the money.
Right.
And love is love. If you love someone outside your religion, that's fine. And if they convert, then they really fucking love you. But you can't expect them to have lived that entire life overnight. And so I like the fact this guy did this and she did that for him, and they were trying this whole thing. And then they get hit with the reality of the religion. It's about money and, status and appearances and all this other stuff. I'm like, that's not what religion is supposed to be. And then he ends up paying the rest of the bill. I was like, don't pay it. And as soon as he pays it, that rabbi takes it all back and says, Mazel Tov. Like,
I didn't understand. I didn't get the ending.
Because the dad was debating whether he should finish paying the guy. But he's like, it's the right thing to do. And it was late at night. The rabbi took the money instantly. And, usually people are like, okay, I'll take it instantly, and sent back, Mazel Tov, like, congratulations. After telling him, this was all just a sham. I did this just so it was done right. Give me money.
He didn't tell him to keep his money.
No, he took the money. He said he came out for the money, and because he wanted to make sure the kid was circumcised in the Jewish tradition.
Right.
That's
so what?
And then
I guess what I don't understand is, because of how we learn how awful that rabbi is, and that he basically performed the service for the money, denounced the whole Jewish faith of the entire house, was rude about his wife, was rude about the son. He's not going to give the family a certificate showing that the son is Jewish, which means that the son now can't get into schools or synagogues as a Jewish person. So why is there any surprise at all that once the guy hits send on payment, the rabbi says Mazel Tov. What else is he going to say? Oh, here's your money.
He could have just taken the money and said nothing, but he's like, "Oh, congratulations!" Like, you know, it was all good. And that's when it's like, "Son of a," and that's when it cut out. Like, this guy's just an ass.
I just didn't get that. I didn't understand. I'm like, well, of course he said Mazel Tov. This dude doesn't give a shit about you. It didn't work for me. It did not. In fact, I was so confused by the father's reaction at the end. I thought, was that like some kind of weird twist and he paid the wrong rabbi? Like, why are you so like, son of a bitch? Of course the rabbi, the character is so well written and so well acted. Of course he took the money immediately and said Mazel Tov. The last thing he said to you before he left your house after fucking shaming you was, don't forget to pay me the rest of my money. So the ending absolutely threw me off. I did not understand it at all.
It made me laugh.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I really, I abhor all religion. Doesn't matter what it is. I can't stand it. And it really upset me that, you know, the wife wasn't Jewish, but yet she converted to Judaism because that's what was important to her husband. And I'm like, that's some love. I mean, I don't agree with it, and I would never do it, and I wouldn't want anyone to do that for me, but they wouldn't have to because I'm not religious. But I can also appreciate and respect the fact that, you know, this was a conversation they had, obviously. They're married. He's like, I'm Jewish. She's like, I'm not. And he's like, well, if you want to be with me, you got to convert. And she's like, fine, shit, of course. You know, and to have that so disrespected by that rabbi, God, it was so well acted. He was such a dick.
Yeah.
He was awful.
So that's it for our shorts reviews. Don't go anywhere because we're going to come right back and we're going to recap a few things we watched apart from each other and our just entire experience at South by this year for our grand finale of South by Southwest Virtual 2021 right after this.